17. And what have I really been doing other than really documenting the videos? And my thing has been all out of whack. Starting out heavier than I started, so that's not whatever. But also recognizing, holy shit, a lot can happen in the body. A lot can happen. This bloating thing has been like crazy. Feeling this way. So obviously there's like, hormones are a real thing. A lot of different factors are coming into play. So one, I guess, the real thing, and as I said, I had the vaccine, which did change the body chemistry for me a lot. I had a medical emergency from it. I had, my body reacted in a really screwed up way. Is what I'm dealing with from that? Who knows? That's the problem, right? There's also the factor that does come into play all of a sudden, right? The age thing, what's happening, my brain, what's happening. It's not just one thing. That's the whole thing. Is once you're introducing anything that's foreign into the body, it's going to have a reaction. How you think about that, the chemicals, everything, which goes back to food. So it's like here are the things that would work for here's a diet, here's a thing. Why can't people just turn around and do it? It depends what they really want to do and what they really want to change, and if you're really like, what's going on. And it's funny because I was talking to my one friend, and she, something like, because she's an expert in helping people transform and the type of clients she has and stuff. And she's like, well, I won't take anyone unless, right, like the type of clients who are like, oh, I'm too tired, I don't want to work out, or I can't work out because I'm too tired. She's like, well, I don't want to deal with those people. And it's funny, I used to be a person who could just get up and go and work out and not feel like, even when I was tired, I would go. Now I'm restarting this, going, holy shit, I can't. My body doesn't allow it anymore. So I'm having to take the quite opposite approach and be more empathetic, because I'd be a person generally going, just do it. And I'm really trying to map out for myself where my body's telling me to go. That's what I'm really doing here, and where my brain and my body are. How can I match that up in the same timeline? How can I get the most out of feeling good? How can I get my energy back? When I crash, do I need to crash? What physical reactions I'm having? Blah, 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 blah. Because I can acknowledge, right? I've spun out. I can acknowledge I'm not feeling great. I can acknowledge I'm not happy, but I had to really acknowledge, okay, I haven't been happy my whole life. So that's a pretty major thing. Like a major, major thing. Also, I've had all these, like I said, this is one form of documentation. Then I have other things I do, and then I have other layers on top of it. So it's like stress is a major factor. The stress I put on myself because of the pressure I put on myself for the things I want to achieve is one. And ironically, those are the things I have to let go of too. It's like if I'm choosing to do what I'm doing right now, I have to really learn to enjoy the process of doing it. It's the irony. Learn to enjoy the silence, the alone time, the things, because that's the choice. And if you're in a situation where you're surrounded by people and whatever your life circumstances are, that is a choice. And the job you go to is a choice. And the things, like, it really is. And that's the first thing to recognize. And then when our bodies are screaming at us in pain, that's a sign, a red alert that something's wrong. Okay, if I don't make a change, right? Like things, and this is on the flip side, right? We love our life, things are great. All of a sudden, things like there's something like a warning sign, something's not right. And then now we have to make a change. Well, we don't ever have to, but if we're being like, we feel like, well, we're being forced to because our environment has changed, how we choose to make that change is a choice, is what I'm getting at. Because otherwise, it could be something screaming at you saying, okay, this is right, not working, right? Not right. Like for example, you love your job, you've been going to your job consistently, and then all of a sudden, the company is out of business, and then you don't have that job anymore. Okay, well, you didn't make that choice, is what I'm saying. But the choice of that's a pain thing that's going to be triggered now all of a sudden, right? Your whole life's upside down, and that's scary, right? Like, and then what? Okay, so what's the choice? Like, so that's what I'm saying. There's external factors, and then how we deal with them, and when we're strong and we can recognize that. And because I'm blessed in a way that the way that this happened, I was able to kind of work through all the factors, because like I said, I'm really working through all the layers. Health, wealth, and relationships I have this different map, literally, that's like mapping the mind that works over and over again, right? The first internal, really, that health, wealth, and relationships in the map, but you're still working through, and there is a specific order to it for a specific reason. And it's my own little mind map, and I would take somebody through the same process, but I have to make sure I'm kind of, in doing that, where somebody would fit in where they are at and why. Because if we stay stuck in one particular area our whole lives, we never really evolve as humans. Our brains can't. And so many people do, and that's fine. That's the type of life they want, and they don't recognize it though. And then when something comes up that's uncomfortable and they have to change, it's like a big thing. I just happen to have the type of life that's been catastrophic, had shit that's I've lived multiple lives in my life. I realized where some people have lived kind of the same type of life, even though they've, the way they're aging and different, things depending. And as I'm feeling like I'm still out of whack, my body's out of whack, which is making me all these thoughts out of whack, which is oh my goodness, the swelling, the inflammation. Okay, there's the practical sense, like I said, of these things. Okay, so I'm taking the right steps. I got a message. I'm like, okay, I got to check my hormones, got to check something, because there's an actual thing that's going on, just to make sure. So that's where you have to be responsible too. There's a lot of people I know are too proud to go to the doctor, too proud, right? So all these things I don't hate all doctors, for the record, right? And those things, it's checking, going to the right thing, getting the right, at the end of the day, the right information, who you can trust and who Well, the people that haven't been in situations that have been safe and trustworthy, that's where you have a difficult time. That's happened to be my situation. So then you have to navigate through things, and that's ironically though the beauty of virtual world and the internet is this talking, who you're putting in your head, what you're allowing, what information, because that's going to shape you. And then you can move really into their networks, into their thing. And then if you're in one trusted network, moving to that's actually how you do it from really the internet in a way. And that's the beauty of the modern world, 2022, versus a long time ago when we couldn't do that. However, globally, not everybody still has those opportunities. So if you're blessed in a place where you have access to being able to do those things, that's the first thing. Here, boom, count your blessings. You can choose to educate yourself out of the situation. You don't have that excuse, right? I don't have that excuse because I have access to that information. Okay, what can I do to plug through this? So sometimes it's as an overachiever, right before, but like I said, that get to the gym. That mentality can actually shut you down if you've had it your whole life though. And depending on how exhausting, or even a shorter period of time for people, but so for me, a lifetime of trauma with that attitude, that's where that's why it was such a clinical crash. And the physical is harder to bring up, because that's how much was coming in and eventually just killed my body. And I have to recognize that, because I keep minimizing it and going, no, you're restoring. And because because I'm still constantly shitting on myself in this process, going, why am I that dialogue versus holy, look at how far you come, look at what you're doing. So when I analyze my stuff and my day, it's still looking at what I didn't do versus what I did do. And the irony is that thinking weighs you down. I recognize, if I go in a day and the things I'm doing, if I who cares? Because I'm still measuring, even though I'm trying to, for wealth, right? So health, wealth, and relationships, and then in terms of body, but really breaking free from this thinking that time for something, right? So if I'm not measuring, so if I'm not working 24, basically I do have this fucked up mentality that if I'm not always working, I'm not good enough. When I have downtime, holy shit, I'm still feeling guilty. And work doesn't have to mean exchange for money if you're working on something toward the money. So when I'm not working on that, then I'm a loser. That's my internal dialogue. Okay, I'm taking a break for my health and things. Well, that's working towards something. Okay, but if I'm not achieving that goal, then I'm a loser. Because ironically, I'm surrounded by so many people that had that push mentality of overachievers. That can also be detrimental in the motivational world. That's the irony of it. The irony of that. The pressures of those things kind of take away sometimes the living component. So if you're just going from one goal to the next, to the next, to the next, to be whatever, to hit goals and be to have the, whatever it is, best body, best more money, the next status, the next thing, like achieve, like you're not really, that's not actually living. That's just working from one trophy to the next. It's not success either. That's the irony of it. Success is understanding and appreciating the process. Really is, from a scientific standpoint, releasing, being able to naturally release like that dopamine. As much as I joke with the doctors with this with some people that have made these things with consistency, it does, you can be up and down with, like, life is up and down, but if you could get to this thing where you love and appreciate things, the healthy release of that dopamine actually can heal so much of the brain, which could heal the guts and the head and the heart, because it would make it in alignment, because then you're not so spun out. I'm talking to myself here, recognizing that that's what I do, because I go back to the negative thinking, well, like, of how much I'm not doing. There's people you can, and I'm working toward that in different things. Like, you don't have, like, time for money, you don't have to do. So if you, like, there's ways to make money, you don't have to do that. You would have to put in, this argument what I'm doing, the foundation of the building, so that the income's not a factor of, like, unlimited, meaning you're not exchanging the time for money. That has no relevance. And a lot of people that have had that kind of brainwashed mentality wouldn't understand that either, because then it's like, well, now what am I doing with my time? Time's the most valuable thing you have. Period. People say, well, health would be. Well, no, really, time. Okay, now what are you doing? Your time. Well, how are you choosing to spend your time? Right? Some people, like, I heard somebody say, I have 30, whatever. I wish I had 36 hours in a day. Well, you're not managing your time. Can't manage time. Same thing. No, we all have the same amount of time. Why do some people? How do we control ourselves in that time? Where we take our bodies, what we do with our bodies in that time. Okay, I'm limited now. I want to be in Hawaii, laying on the beach, not doing this. Okay, well, why am I not there? Well, let's say whatever, because whatever reason people have, right? Like, I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I don't have the, right? I have to be at my job. No, you actually, like, don't. Right, you could, but now you can't. What are the barriers to get? If you really wanted to be in Hawaii at that time, you could. You just change the timelines. Okay, what are the things blocking you from that? Right, this is where people born into their circumstances have different obstacles and different things. That's why it's so important for you to know what you want, where you want to be. And then, okay, what are your obstacles and how are you going to get there? Where do we have difficulties? Believing that that's a possibility for us, depending on how we were raised, depending on what we were born into. When we were born worthy, right? And then the world tells us differently. Then we have the perceptions of all of the things around us. So it's our responsibility to really know what we want, right, from our lives. Okay, now, right, understand it's going to be work to get there, no matter what. And that's why I say success can't be, if you measure only the success with money, well, that's stupid. How many people do I know born into money who are completely useless twits, right? So they have money. Does that make them successful? No, right? Even, right? Or not even close, right? So it's, what do you know? That I would argue a person born into money has more responsibility to learn to give back in a different way, right? That would be a challenge. That would be like, hey, you've been given this gift. What are you doing with it? Are you squandering it? Because then you're going to be tested on that. Are you, like, that's how it works. Not like the people have this, and that's where, because society has put this status thing on things, and that's kind of what plays in our heads, right? And I know that, I recognize that. Obviously, I'm dealing with it for me with the body, right? When you're not these ways. But that's like, at the same time, it's like, oh, if you were given a gift and different things, okay, what are you doing with it? Well, my gift and my curse, right? It's this mental block that I'm dealing with, but it's like, well, if I can get through this, then I can help other people, because I know so many people struggle with the same thing, because what? It's preventing me from living happy. Will it forever? No, because I feel myself, this goes back, if I'm honest with myself, Candace, look at how far I've come, look at this process, look at what I've done, look at what I'm understanding. Okay, versus, and understanding and recognizing and appreciating the baby steps. Because that's where the major changes come from. But because what? Because my body didn't lose in the 2 months the weight I wanted to. So I didn't go on a diet. That's not what it is. But I just thought, oh, I'm just eating in this window and let's see what happens. Well, then that spin me out. Why? Restrictions. Restrictions open up the brain to different things. When our cravings are so out of whack, so like now, I'm craving all these different things. Well, there's one okay, there could be a chemical problem, hormones. Also, where does the brain go? Why? Ask yourself and challenge yourself, and then are you doing the right thing? So there's the things you need to do, like the mechanical things, like the right things, and that's why your body's a machine. Okay, what you're giving to it, and that's why your machine and my machine are different. We need different things at different times. That's why it's your responsibility to know what your body needs. Okay, well, you don't know. Okay, you need to be educated. Okay, where are you getting that information from? Because then you could go to somebody and they tell you, this is where we get into the complications in the diet area. One person has this theory, another person has this theory. Both of them can present to you and both make perfect sense, and they're polar opposite. Oh shit, now what? That's where we get so confused. Like, I come from a completely different world of the nutrition area that just has sent me and then now learning different things, and this one, like, that's where this playing with the body. Okay, now I'm aging. What does that mean? Now I'm like, spinning out. But at the end of the day, it still comes down to the simplicity of, okay, what are the thoughts that are going through your head? What are the thoughts about this food? What are the thoughts about these things? I can recognize definitely the thought pattern that's changed in the recent months versus where I was about food. The fear of food has come back in my life where I didn't have that before. The fear of eating certain foods, which I do believe has a chemical impact on the body. So I have to, this is the tricky part. Getting rid of the fear of the food where you go like, okay, if I have this, no big deal. But also understanding that there is a chemical reaction that will happen in the body. And if the body's rejecting it, that's a chemical thing at that time that might mean I have to eliminate it. That's what I have a hard time with for some reason. And I think it's because it's like, I'm very rebellious. It's like, I don't want to be told I can't have something or can't do something. So then that's why I want it. Okay, now my body's telling me something. Well, I'm rejecting my body now then. Who are you, body? Go fuck yourself. Almost like they're two different people. Instead of respecting my body, listening, it's like, that's the self-abuse. My body's telling me, I'm in pain. I'm not liking this. You're abusing me. And instead, what do I choose to do? Continue to abuse it. Why? Why? Because my ego's in the way. My ego to my own body. No, I want to have what I want to have when I want to have it. Fuck you, body. If I want to mistreat you, I'm going to be able to do. I don't care that you're telling me you're having a reaction to this, these foods and overeating. I don't care. I want to do what I want to do, and I want the results. I want to still look the way I did. I expect that. Is that realistic? No. But that's our lot, and so many people don't recognize that's their internal dialogue. That's a subconscious thing. Why? We wouldn't continue to do that then if we didn't. Then so much I'm like, that thought pattern, holy shit. So I'm like, okay, I have to recognize that. And then I'm having a harder time. Before I could just go, I'm going to rate different things and I would struggle. But I'm like getting back to, do I want to feel better? Yes, because I can't continue on this pattern. Okay, is it going to be hard to make that shift and change? Yes, right? Yes, right? So it's like, but that's, when are you going to, so what? So I'm like, okay. And so they said before I was doing these cleanses and things every once in a blue moon, I would just do it. It was a thing. Okay, cleanse something out. Then I was trying to do fasting, and that I'm having a hard time with right now because that's spinning. So I'm like, you know what? I'll go back to a cleanse because I have to go to an inflammation. So I'm going to try a 3-day cleanse to see how I feel because I have to detox. I have to do something. How do I really feel about that? I want to eat foods back in craving, but I'm also in the place where I'm calmer, where I go, no, I can control it now. But I also needed to let it out before and have that freedom to binge and go go. That was a choice. So how do you stop the binge eating right? Well, first of all, recognizing it's still a choice. I chose to make these binge eat. I chose to be in this fucked up cycle. I chose, right? Because that's the taking the power back. Okay, well, what do you want? Are you choosing? Okay, now what was the consequence? Okay, feeling like shit and worse. These reactions. Okay, well, that's not good. So how do I want to break that cycle? And then it's back to that choice. Right? So, and for me, that binge isn't what it used to be. So that's, again, something I have to celebrate in progress. But my brain chemistry is the same as what it once was when I was a massive binge eater. So this is how these things play, but on it. So I'm hoping to condense this for somebody else struggling with the process if they were going through it, so they don't, and that's right, this feeling. But we'll see how that goes, because today was like, I talked to my friend. She's like, well, just don't eat for, the 24 hours and see how you feel. And for some people, they can, right, just go into that and do that. But I was like, that didn't feel right to me. I flow, and that's why going with this flow. And then I realized I might need the things that help reduce the inflammation. So this also can come too, right? You can go fasting and not having nothing, and then fasting, not fat. Well, I guess it wouldn't be fasting, but cleansing to put things in to push things out. There's two different. Those are two different things as well. How the body would react. So we'll see.